right? Because that's what we all really
Mm-hmm.
want in the end, right? Is that we want a sense of calm, we want peace, we want ease, and we want clarity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel with Laura Tor podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. His name is Tor, and I'm very glad that he could make it today and be with me and say something about himself. So, hello, Tor, and thanks for coming.
It is my pleasure to be here, Laura. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, Tor, if you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit
Yeah.
about you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tor. I call myself an intuitive guide. I am originally from Norway, but I am currently living in London, where I have been for about 14 years. I mean, time passes so quickly sometimes, in the moment, it doesn't feel like time is passing at all. And then suddenly 14 years have passed, and you're like, oh, where did all of those years go? Did I do anything useful? Like, did anything interesting happen? Of course, lots of interesting things did happen, but you kind of lose track of it all, which is the magic of time, right? And space and everything. So, meditation, spirituality, intuition, tarot cards, crystals, all of those kind of intuitive practices have been a part of my life since childhood. My grandmother was a clairvoyant medium back home in Norway, so I was shown the path very early on, which I'm so grateful to my grandmother for having opened that door in my mind at such an early age, because I think it just switched my mindset in quite an interesting way in terms of how I just approach the ups and downs of life. I think that when you open that more spiritual, intuitive, trusting, accepting part of your mind, it doesn't mean that challenges go away, but it just colors them in a different way, I think. I've been working with a teacher and a master here in London since 2013 called Ines. She had a very, I suppose still do because she's still alive, had a very similar approach to my late grandmother. So that was an easy transition to going from like my grandmother and to my new teacher, who I'm still working with. Because as you know, this practice is a practice that never ends in many ways. It just keeps on going and you keep on unfolding and learning. And now it feels like such a privilege and gift to be able to hold spaces of healing and guidance and development for people, even at such an early age, right? Because I always knew that I was going to step into my grandmother's shoes when I got older. But I always thought that I would be like in my 50s, but the universe, the cosmos had other plans and I'm in my 30s instead of. And yeah, now here we are. I have one-to-one clients online, offline. I run groups online, offline, and I offer a wide range of offerings: tarot readings, intuitive tarot readings, energy alignment, sonic attunements. Currently working on developing what I'm calling an intuitive school, which is something which is going to develop very slowly, but I want to build something which passes on all of the knowledge that I've acquired through my grandmother and through Ines and also through her husband. I want to, however grandiose that might sound like, I want to leave something behind, that can eventually perhaps have a life of its own. So yeah, that is a bit about me and where I came from and how I got into this and what I do.
Thank you for sharing, but I want to take you on a journey. If you can first explain, you said your grandmother was a medium, cowboy
Mm.
medium. What does it mean?
Yeah, yeah. So my grandmother was, she was the real deal. She was a clairvoyant medium. She saw the dead. She communicated with past ones. She was incredibly good at interpreting what kind of futures might be in store for people. She used tarot cards as well, but she also just used her psychic abilities. So yeah, she was an incredible person. She was the real deal. I have maybe met one more person who was as good as she was, but yeah, she was the real deal.
Would you say back in the days, because she was your grandmother, and in Norway, I don't know how women are taken over there in that
Hmm.
stage of life. Was
In
it
what
easy
sense?
for her to just was it easy for her to be like this, like a medium? What was the year? 80s? No, even earlier.
Probably even earlier, Yeah, yeah. It's a great
Because
question.
women back then were
Yeah,
considered as
yeah.
witches. So was she like open about it? Like, oh yeah, I speak to death, or like I'm a medium, like, or it was
You
just like in a
know,
family circle.
sure. My grandmother had like 6 planets in her chart in a fire sign. And
Uh-huh.
so I loved my grandmother, but she was also really hard work. And what I'm getting
Uh-huh.
at is that she was incredibly confident. She could not care less about what people thought about her work and what she was doing. And so, yeah, from my understanding, she never had any issues with being a woman and offering those kinds of services. It is what she did. And if anyone had any issues with it, she didn't care, which I thought was, yeah, incredible in many ways. Cause she was like, this is what I do. And so what?
I love that. It's like, in Norway anyway, there's like these Viking countries where that maybe
Mm.
was more natural for them to come up with these things.
Yeah. I mean, Norway hasn't been Viking for like 1,000 or
Yes.
more years, like we were very much taken over by Christianity. And today it's not really even a Christian country, it's a very sort of atheist kind of place. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it does have, I would say, it has a level of tolerance and open mindedness towards what might come across as unusual, basically. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
also what makes Norway unique is that equality between men and women has been much stronger than perhaps in other parts of the world for a long time. And so, it's like in the UK, for the Labour Party, for example, there's never been a female prime minister. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Norway, that happened really early on. And so, yeah, I would say that equality between men and women has been much stronger. And that's perhaps also why she has then felt more confident in what she was doing.
Do you remember the first time? So you said that she was your biggest teacher. And
Mm.
do you remember the first time when you took like a tarot deck and did a reading as a kid? Or were you doing things like that as a child?
I don't actually. I have really poor memory. And so
Uh-huh.
no, I don't remember. I don't remember, but I do remember my grandmother sort of talking to me about tarot cards and spirit guides and all of those kind of intuitive approaches from very early on and just
So
cultivating, nurturing that connection. Yeah.
how interesting. So how was growing up? Like you mentioned before, you thought you're gonna do this work when you're gonna be your
Mhm,
50s, and now you're at your
mhm.
30s, and it finally just got you. But were you always like this? Like, okay, you knew you're gonna do it one day, but it wasn't like your mission, obviously, when you were a teenager. What was the teenager years like? Were you still spiritual? Or sometimes, when you grow up spiritual, it disappears, it leaves, and then, a teenage boy hits on and he wants to do career and different things.
Yeah, I think I kind of lost it during my adolescence, of course. Like chasing boys and getting drunk was much more interesting. And then I probably had a real shift around the age of, I think it was 22 when it really shifted again
Mm-hmm.
back to really having more of a spiritual path. And I probably lost it around maybe like 10, 11, 12. And then it came back again when I was like 22. So maybe that was like a 10-year, but it wasn't, it was never gone because I still spent summers with my grandmother and she still talked to me about it. But it wasn't as front of mind, I guess, as it had been earlier. But yeah, then it came back.
At 22, what happened
Mm.
there when it came back? There's always like a
Yeah.
pivotal moment.
So, and my grandmother is very much involved in that. So the first year and a half that I lived in London, 21 in a new world, in a new city, partied pretty hard whilst going to uni. And probably about a year and a half in, my grandmother was like, hey, grandson, I think you should rejoin or join some sort of intuitive psychic development group and I did. And I think that had a real sort of shift in my life, basically, by joining that group and meeting Ines at that time really shifted the trajectory of my life back to where it is now.
Just like that, with a blink of an eye.
Literally. Literally, like it was like day and night, basically.
Wow. So
Mm.
since then you join and then you start studying the spirituality and all these great things and it's just rolling. I thought you're gonna give us like a heartbreak and breakups and stuff, dark moments of the soul.
People talk about these. I know people talk about these dark nights of the soul, and I mean, I suppose like maybe I had like some of it, but not what people describe it to be. Basically, no, I have not. Maybe it's somewhere, but no.
What would you say people describe it to be? What people expect medium or spiritual person to be?
Ah, good question. I mean, a lot of people talk about the dark night of the soul as, I mean, I mean, it obviously all happens on a scale, right? In a sense of that, some people just feel incredibly heartbroken or lost, or they feel immense amount of grief, or they come to feel that perhaps the person that they've been in the past doesn't really align with who they want to be in the future. And that there's a bit of a disconnection between who they are in the past and who they are now and who they want to become in the future. And I think the dark night of the soul for some people is the journey between allowing that version of yourself from the past to die to allow that new version to be born, right? And, pregnancy takes 9 months. And so sometimes, just using that as an analogy, then there's a time period where people feel a bit lost until they find some new anchors to hold themselves grounded and present.
And your journey was a little bit different, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, so I think my sort of dark night of the soul, I suppose, happened more in childhood, I think, in the
Mhm.
sense of that, it's like my parents divorced when I was 6 or 7 years old, I think. And, during that same time, my childhood home burned to the ground. I was bullied a lot at school. There was lots of issues at home. So I think that dark night of the soul, yeah, showed up much earlier in my life than what it
Mhm.
did. And that's not to say, I mean, gosh, there has been some very challenging times as an adult, but I think of all of these things just as natural parts of your life. This is just life doing its thing. There's no I mean, I think there's a poetry to the dark night of the soul kind of terminology. The word I'm looking for is a framework. It gives people a framework for the experience that they're going through. But at the same time, I'm like, this is just life doing its thing, and you can just approach one moment at a time.
Like, how did you like overcome all these things? Like even bullying at school.
Yeah, I mean, as we established before I came on, I'm a Leo by star sign, and it's hard to explain. And this is going to sound somewhat arrogant, I think, but
Mhm.
I think I'm incredibly lucky. I have just been inborn with some sort of innate confidence, regardless of what anybody else tells me about me. The most important person who thinks anything about me is me, right? And
Mhm.
that doesn't have to be impacted by what somebody else tell me that they think about me. And so I have a very, although that's not to say that I don't get anxious or worried or fearful, but I have a very positive internal monologue, right? I'm quite good at coaching myself through challenges and problems and issues and find ways through things that are difficult, but in a positive way. And I mean, that's not to say that I haven't had time periods where my mind has been in more of a lull, but I've always managed to get
Mhm.
myself out of that. I was very lucky as a kid. Again, like I had very supportive teachers. I also made a friend when I was like 13, and his mother basically adopted me in so many ways. Like she was amazing, and she managed to, I suppose, help me navigate some challenges as a kid, and obviously instilled confidence from my grandmother. And I think because when I was like 14, 15, 16, I also started religiously. I mean, I've always been into sports, but I religiously started going to the gym. And I also, as a part of that, became very interested in like mental health. And I think by reading about mental health, I also then understood my mental health much more. And obviously through my own training, that's made me become more self-aware. And again, I also just like, I'm quite naturally disciplined and committed and devoted. And like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something, right? And that hasn't necessarily been cultivated from anywhere externally other than me sort of deciding that that's the right thing to do. And again, it's not to say
That
that I don't get sad or upset or worried or fearful, but at the same time, I just don't allow myself to get too worked up because what's the point?
what would you say to people who you said from you it's very easy and you feel very lucky because it comes internally, it's just within you, it's how you were born, you're Leo. What would you say the people who doesn't have that internally, like they lack the
Yeah.
confidence?
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good question, you know? And I think it's very difficult to distill it into like, do these five things and you will become more confident because everybody needs individual attention, you know? And also every person has a different genetics and different sort of ancestry, and so there's a lot of stuff which goes into who a person is, right? But for me at least it's always about trial and error and experimentation and
Mhm.
failing and learning and trying again, right? And sometimes I think where a lot of people perhaps get it wrong is that they want to try and change everything at once, right?
Mhm.
When it is actually much better to try and like focus on really, 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 really tiny changes over time. And as you do these tiny, tiny, tiny changes over time, your confidence will also naturally build, right? Because you are understanding that I am able to do things now that I weren't able to do in the past, even if it's like I don't know. Not that I'm doing this anymore, but it's like I was talking to my partner yesterday about that. Actually, when I used to go out clubbing, even though and this is an area where I actually probably lack confidence, and I've never. But it's also not that important. But because I have very lots of confidence in other areas, but where I've always lacked confidence is like, for example, not that I do it anymore, but I used to do clubbing. I used to go clubbing, right? And I would never approach somebody in a nightclub like, oh, like that's just
Mhm.
never been in my character. Like, and I don't know what that's about. That's not where my confidence shines, basically. But using that as an example, right? And myself now, let's say I went out clubbing again and I was single. You know, an area for me to improve on is can I go up to one person this evening and say, hey, I'm Tor. What's your name? I find this really uncomfortable. Can we
Mhm.
have a chat? Blah blah blah, right? And then maybe that doesn't turn into anything. And then next time you go out clubbing, you do it twice, right? You make a list of saying hi to two people instead of just one, right? And you do like these tiny, tiny, tiny little things over time. And by doing tiny, tiny little things over time where you challenge yourself and you just step just outside of your comfort zone, your confidence grows, right?
It's a muscle, you have to build it.
It's a muscle you have to build. You also have to have friends around you who are also very supportive. It's important to have parents who are supportive. So again, it's a really, really complicated thing. But for me, at least, it's always been a muscle to build, basically. And it's just tiny changes over time will make a huge, huge impact.
And let me ask you one more question about your inner dialogue with yourself. When you are,
Mm,
for example, low or like you are stressing or you're sad and you said you can talk yourself out of it, some phrases, what would you say to other people if they're feeling low and sad and they don't see the light in the end of the tunnel? Like how they can get themselves out of that.
sure. I mean, for me, it's always about energy in motion, right? And so I think that what a lot of people don't do, which they should be doing, is that it's about having practices, daily practices that you do before you get sad, right? You have to, for
Mm-hmm.
example, take meditation, for example, right? If you're starting to meditate when you're already feeling sad, it's obviously going to help, but if you had a meditation practice before you got sad, the meditation practice would be much more effective at getting you out or managing or navigating or being with that sadness and finding a way through it because the meditation practice is already really, really strong. So I meditate. I mean, I meditate for an hour every morning, right? Every day without fail. And that every day, that just helps me to, because I'm able to sit in that sort of inner meditative landscape and I can hear that internal monologue starts going, sometimes in really unhelpful ways. And I just go, but that is not true. It's not true. What the internal monologue is saying is not true. I don't have to listen to that. I'm someone who very much believes in, and like, for example, I've been going to the gym since I was 15, right? Again, moving my body, moving the energy. I find that really, really helps. Also reflecting upon, like, is there evidence from the past that this didn't work out? Like, are there any truth in this anxiety? But I think, it's really about understanding that what's going on in your mind 99% of the time just is not true. And if you can accurately identify that it's not true, then just get on with your day. It's really hard. Like, it takes a lot of effort. I make it sound really easy. It's really, really difficult because so many of us, myself included, sometimes we believe it and we get lost in whatever that is, right? It's like we live in a society which is, based on, I mean, I have nothing against money, but bills are going up everywhere, right? To be fearful about not being able to pay your bills is very understandable, right? It is totally understandable. But the solution there isn't to freeze. The solution is to go, what can I do, right? Do I need to get another job? Do I need to ask for help? What is it? Because the thing is, that's also something I probably don't really allow myself to do, is to wallow, right? Because and I heard this on a podcast somewhere, and I was like, I think exactly the same as this. I think everything in my life is solvable. No matter how bad it gets, anything has a solution. The solution might not be sexy, but there is a solution. And I think if you inherently believe that there is a solution, you will find a solution.
Amen.
Mm.
So questioning your own thoughts, if they're true
Mm.
or not true, I really like that. What about the people who are scared to, like you said, meditation really helps you? And I want to ask you, like, what would we can say, like, how much meditation could help you? And also how you got yourself into the point where now you can sit for 1 hour and meditating, because that is very big accomplishment. And is it like a still that you just listen nothing, or is it guided meditation, or is it just you
Sure.
and yourself?
Sure. So I have my master, my teacher Ines, has gifted me a meditation which is composed of a few different elements. There's a few elements which I also have added for myself. So within that hour, it starts with probably about, I'd say there's about sort of 5 to 10 minutes of just settling in, setting intention, feeling my body, becoming aware of the breath. And then I take myself through like a breathwork practice. I call it restorative breathwork practice. That probably lasts for about 10 minutes. And then I have this visualization that I guide myself through. So I talk myself through a visualization, which probably lasts for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And then for the rest of that, and then after that visualization is done, then I just sit in that inner landscape for the rest of the hour, basically.
And when the thoughts come in, you just tell them, not today.
Yeah, the intrusive thoughts, they come, and sometimes I get caught in that intrusive thought where I sort of go with it, and then I just bring myself back, and then you go with it, and then you come back, and that's kind of the dance of the meditation.
Do you have any focus point in your body when the thought comes? Is there somewhere you
Yeah.
give your
I have a visual that I bring myself back to, basically. Yeah. But sometimes it also just depends. Sometimes it is the body, sometimes it is the breath, but often it is a visual that I bring myself back to.
that vision? I like that. So how did you make yourself sit and do these things? Was it like you just sat down and then you were doing it for months, or was it like today I sat down, yes, tomorrow I couldn't do it? Was it like a straight line that you just did it because you're determined and you're gonna do it, or was it up and down?
I'm very determined. I don't think people need to meditate for an hour, right? I mean, I just read about, do you know the author Young Pablo? Do you know him? I'm sure you would know him if you went on his Instagram, and like he's quite famous in sort of the Instagram self-helpy space. Anyway,
Okay.
he has just done a 60-day silent retreat. 2 months. 2 months. My brain can't even comprehend it. Right? It's flabbergasting. Anyway, and I would love to. There's my ego, my internal ego, is like, I want to do that. I want to achieve that. I'm not going to do it. It's fine. I'm going to let that go. That's my internal ego. My Leo pride is like, to do that, which I won't. But, your meditation can be 10 minutes. I think it's just about, so like, for example, in the opening of my meditation, after I've sort of grounded and settled into my body, I focus on the expansion and release of my abdominals, right? I breathe in and I feel my stomach expand, and I exhale and I feel it release. And I couple that with a visual, and the visual that I'm imagining is the ocean. The ocean sort of breathing in, right? The ocean is moving, and then you exhale and the ocean is moving. And I'm sort of attuning myself to that calm energy of the ocean, of just waves coming in, going out, and at least I find that very comforting and very calming, right? I think, if you just sat for 10 minutes, closed your eyes, took some deep breaths, and focused on your abdominals expanding and releasing, and coupling that with imagining the ocean, that's amazing, right? That's amazing. Do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Recently I've been saying to some, because I run lots of in-person classes, and I noticed that some of them, it's like, I invite them to take 3 breaths before we start the meditation, and so many of them go, and they breathe in really quickly, and I'm just like, that is way too fast. You don't have to breathe that quickly. And so I give them homework, and I've said to them, every morning, do one thing, and this one thing you're going to do is that you're going to do a breathwork practice where you breathe in for 5, you exhale for 5, you breathe in for 6, you exhale for 6, and you do that until you get to 10, and then you reverse it. And you do that every morning, and trust me, your breathing will change. You will become much more aware of your breath, and it will just naturally, over time, become slower, more easeful, more peaceful, because, we have to train ourselves, right, to attune to that way of life.
So what would you say breath work and meditation, when you combine it together, how it can really improve your life? You said it can be more peaceful, it's going to help
Yeah.
with your breathing.
So I see breath work and visualization and also sound as bridges to connect with my ongoing day-to-day inner guidance, right? Because that's what we all really
Mm-hmm.
want in the end, right? Is that we want a sense of calm, we want peace, we want ease, and we want clarity. And also, we want to feel that we have some connection to this inner guidance that's like moving us forward, and the thing that's like feels like we are being guided in the direction that feels right for us. And I think that meditation, breathwork, and sound are excellent ways to bring forth all of those states of being that I just mentioned.
You mentioned inner guidance. Why can you say the difference? How do you know the difference between ego and your inner guidance? Why is it so important to have that inner guidance?
Very good question. And I think that we, of course, in those moments have to practice like extreme or really, really, really rigorous discernment, right? I also think it depends on context, because if your inner guidance is like, oh, you should buy that red car, that red Ferrari. Should it really? Is that really what your inner guidance is trying to telling you to do? To spend more money you don't have and put in a credit card and be in debt for the rest of your life? Really? No, I don't think so. But the inner guidance might be, hey, this friend, how do they make you feel when you're around them? Do they make you feel uplifted? Do they make you feel sad? Do they really contribute to an energy in your life that leads to more purpose and clarity? And there's probably, if and when those thoughts come up anywhere, there's probably something inside you who's like, there's a niggle somewhere, right? Who's telling you, this friend isn't good for me because they make me feel like crap. And I think that's where your inner guidance kicks in. Or it could be a
So it's
job, or it could be a job or a relationship or a city that you're living in. But I think it's much more about those kinds of areas of your life over, should I buy the red Ferrari, or the Louis Vuitton bag,
it seems more like rushing
Yeah,
than taking it slow and questioning. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
so what do you think would happen to people who doesn't listen their inner guardians, who are not connected to their inner guardians? and they just overdriving on like the red Ferrari and the external things they think they need.
Yeah, I mean, there's a contradiction here, though, because obviously this is also their path of life, right? That is who they are this time
Mhm.
around as they are venturing through this earthly realm. But we also know from, I mean, I'm someone who's not averse to science and research and all that kind of stuff, although I also have a spiritual mindset. We just know from science and we know from psychological well-being that people who are too over reliant on external rewards overall are less happy.
Mm.
This, you know, we just know it. It's true. It's proven, you know, and people who are more internally focused and rewarded through acts of service and care and empathy in general have better mental health.
It's nice.
Ah,
That means we're gonna live very long life.
that's the plan, you know. I have, you know, I am, yeah. My plan is to live for quite some time. Yeah,
Let's talk about your catch up on your career and what you do right now. I've
sure.
seen on your website or somewhere that you often talk about helping people reconnect with their authentic essence. Would you share what authentic essence means to you and how you help people to reconnect with that?
Yeah, authentic essence. I mean, it's authenticity. Authenticity is such an interesting word, right? Because it is, I suppose, something which is also quite trendy in a way. You know, everybody wants to be authentic. But for me, and I mean, it kind of connects with what we just spoke about. But there was an amazing Substack post, and it went something. It was something about how to be unreachable or something, and it talked about how to cultivate a sense of mystique around your being, not in an overt, arrogant way, but in a way which is like, wow, this person is so interesting. And I think for me, you know, authenticity is about having a passion. It's about having an interest. And to me, it doesn't really matter whether your passion is, I don't know, train spotting or looking at bats or spirituality. But I think there's something really authentic about having a passion for something, which is a bit unusual. Take sewing or pottery but you have like a real in depth and you just know everything about it, you know, and you even choose to do that over a meaningless social interaction. You would rather focus on this passion rather than having menial, shallow social interactions that can be useful to some degree, but you also have this thing that you're so interested about. And I think that creates a real mystique. I think it creates a real authenticity. And I also think that it brings forward a real sense of fulfillment, you know? Um, it's like, I mean, and some people in my life hate this about me, but after I have done my meditation in the evening, I am unreachable.
In what way?
In the sense of my phone is off.
Okay, okay.
You know, my phone is off. I will not be looking at doesn't matter if you call, nothing. I am unreachable. And during that time of my meditation, you know, I'm journaling, I'm meditating, I'm reading, I'm stretching, I'm doing my sort of evening practice, you know, because I love it. And, you know, it's like I have a client who is very interested in developing his own sense of authenticity and mystique. And I'm not someone who suggests that anyone should be copying what it is that I do, but I do think that a sense of authenticity and a sense of mystique and personality, it comes through having interesting practices or things that you do in your life. Like, for example, I don't know, maybe you spend an hour every evening doing a puzzle, right? Or you build a plane, but you have something that you're so interested in and it just makes you a cool person. And I think that's how you become more authentic because it also just means that there's certain things in your life that you say no to.
But how do you find what if somebody doesn't know what they like? Or how do they find
Sure.
what they're passionate about?
Well, then I think it's about a lot of experimentation, right? You have to try. You don't know if you don't try, right? whether that's reading, walking, meditating, sewing, pottery, dancing, whatever it is, just something, you know? Because I can't, you can't really tell anybody. You have to figure it out. You have to try it.
You gotta discover who you are. That's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Experiment. I like
yeah.
that.
It's just all an experiment.
You mentioned like after meditation, you turn off, you're not reachable, you turn off your
Mm.
phone. Do you feel like now in this modern world where the phones are such a huge part of our life? And I don't know if that is true, but I've seen you that you in the past you also worked somewhere in like social media innovation or something like that. I don't know if
Yeah,
that it was
so that's no. I have a master's degree in social innovation, which has nothing to do with social media. It has to do with creating social interventions which are about helping people. But
okay.
I studied digital design at uni, and I worked for like a tech ed company for a while. And yeah, no, I mean, I've deleted most social media off my phone because I think that's really important, and I do my best.
Why do you think it's important?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just distracting. It's just
Mm,
incredibly distracting. And I don't think it creates enough space for like deep thought, deep thought.
mm.
Because you can't be distracted if you're going to have deep thoughts.
People need to hear this because nowadays we are all distracted and
Oh,
we are
me
looking for
too. Like, what I have to do to keep myself focused throughout the day is I set timers throughout the day on my watch. I set like a half an hour timer, and I'm like, okay, I'm just doing this for 30 minutes, and I'm focusing on this for 30 minutes. And then the timer goes off, and I check my phone, and I check my emails, and I check my Instagram, and then I set another timer, and I get on with my work, right? Because otherwise, my brain is also like every other human. We are overworked, tired, and so it's difficult to like keep that focus basically. And say I have to again train. I also have to train myself to stay focused.
we all need to train ourselves to stay focused. So you're not, you go, wow.
Yeah,
But
it's really
it's
hard.
hard. It's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
yeah.
Once you're there, even you have a timer, even you have that, if you don't have that self reflection and the determination to quit and the
Mm,
trust that you can do it, then
mm,
you're lost. You just
mm,
lost
mm.
because
It's
it
really.
just drags you in.
Yeah, no, it does. And sometimes I fail too. It drags me back in. I'm like, no, Tor, no, no, stop it, stop it.
So tell us more. So you have clients these days and you work a lot. What are the biggest struggles that people experience in your environment, people you work with?
So, I mean, I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that what's at the top of mind for both people, for most people, is love, right? Finding
Hmm.
love, navigating love, understanding love, and in all its shapes and forms, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think love is probably the number one priority. I also think that like work and colleagues is really important for like, right? And yeah, I think work and colleagues and love, and then probably the third is like just life path, that feeling of like, am I on the right path? Like, is this what I'm meant to be doing? Should I be in this job? Should I be with this partner? Should I live in this city? Should I live in this house? And am I making the most of this experience that I've been gifted? So yeah, it's kind of that's and then there's also, of course, clients who are interested in developing their own intuition, right? They don't want me to just pull some cards or guide them through an energy experience. They also want to develop their own sense of like inner knowing and inner sensing. So there's also a bit of that.
So what tools do you mostly use for these people who are looking for love or they want to have a better relationship?
Yeah, so for most of the time, it is the old little tarot deck. That is mostly it's the tarot. I mean, I approach tarot in a very sort of coachy, intuitive guidance kind of way, in the sense of that, of course, there is some level of like divination involved, but I also mostly just want to use it as an intuitive practice because the thing is, like, I can say, oh yeah, it looks like to me like maybe there's a partner coming into your life in 4 months. Great.
Mm.
But like, how does that help if you don't approach this relationship from a new place, right? So it's also about what areas do you need to grow to approach that new relationship from a different attunement than perhaps you were doing in the past. So also it's a bit of working through that and like creating those opportunities for actionable change.
And then you also mentioned that you work with in corporate, like you work with groups with people. So how that is like, is it like a collective reading you do for them, or how that looks like in a space?
Yeah, so it really depends on the session. I mean, on some of the studios that I work at, I do a class, an hour session where everybody in the room gets a two card reading, like a short message, just quite quick. And then I also guide them through like an energy aligning experience, combining the breath, visuals, and sonics. In corporates, it's much more around like guided meditation and breath work and one-to-one coaching. So yeah, that's how it works in groups. Sometimes I will run a workshop on a specific topic. Other times, people in the group I will be giving them a tarot card, and then they will use the tarot card as a reflective prompt for themselves, right? So I'm not the one who's telling them what the card means. They are using the
Oh,
tarot card as a prompt for themselves, basically. Yeah.
maybe would you like maybe towards the end give like a pull one card
Sure.
for people who are struggling with love or relationship, and just like give them a little message?
Well,
Um,
I was gonna give you a message.
to me a myth.
I was gonna
Okay.
give you a message, you know. I was gonna give you.
Okay.
It's probably good. Let's do it. We can do it. Unless I have a different specific question, because obviously you've been here with your partner for
We've been together from 2019, so it's
right.
been 7 years. Yeah.
Oh wow! And you survived COVID. That's
It
impressive.
was a long distance relationship. Yeah, he was in
Ah,
Texas and I was at home. So there was like 1.5 year apart, but then we made it. We survived COVID and we survived a long distance relationship. So we made it for each
wow,
other.
wow, that's amazing. My
Yeah,
partner is also from Texas. That's so funny.
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love that.
That's
Both
so,
Leos,
that's
we're both
weird.
Leos, and we both have a partner from Texas.
That's what a coincidence, right? Or
Hmm.
if it's not, let's say it's just meant to happen.
Let's just say it's meant to happen. You know, let's just say it's meant to happen.
Well, give it a reading then, since we already
Okay.
talked about it. You mean we already. Do I need to do something or just be relaxed and
Is there a question or an area of your life that's top of mind?
I don't know if I want to address this in the podcast. Just surprise me. Whatever message comes to you, I'll
Okay.
receive it with.
It's always good. Love and
It,
open heart is always good, you know? Let's have a look and see what the tarot has in store for Laura today. So, how do we interpret this for Laura in this moment? Okay, so the three cards that I have pulled for you, I have pulled the Ace of Cups reversed. I have
oh,
pulled the Strength card upright, and I have also pulled the Knight of Cups reversed. And how I am going to read these three cards. So, I mean, I always love it when a Leo has card come up, you know, because there is a lion on the strength card. And what I love about the strength card and also how this is kind of showing up here is obviously you got this woman sitting here and you got the lion down there. And I think, you know, the thing with a strength card is that this isn't necessarily like a forceful strength, right? It is a loving, open hearted strength that you were just talking about earlier. And I feel that, especially with we're having both the Ace of Cups and the Knight of Cups, but of course, like I said, they are reversed. And so there's a feeling within these two cards where there is a feeling of like excitement and anticipation. And it's like, it feels to me that there is an emotional new beginning that you are sort of almost like on your toe waiting for this thing to happen. But for one reason or another, it's just a bit of a delay, right? Does you have to just wait a tiny bit longer? And a problem, and I dislike it when people tell me this, but an aspect of Leos is that it's a curse and a gift. It is a curse and a gift because I think it drives us forward, but it also is a curse because, and the word is impatience, right? We can have a level of impatience, right? And I think that this is where the strength card shows up, in the sense of that in this moment, you're just going to have to wait a tiny bit longer. However, there is actually really, really important growth in your ability to wait, right? There's a really, really, really important reason why you have to wait, because it just feels to me that there are other factors that needs to fall into place. And so whatever this is, whatever this lovely new beginning in your life that this represents, and we've got the Knight of Cups over here, right? Somebody's coming with news. You're just gonna have to wait a hinge longer. Not much longer, but just a tiny bit longer. And that's okay. And I think the growth here for you, Laura, is to be okay with waiting. I think that's what these two cards are speaking to. And you're just gonna have to settle into that feeling of waiting and understanding that there's a reason for why you have to wait. And when it comes, it's like fireworks.
I don't like the part about waiting because, as you said, I am very impatient. But yes.
And I also just like, it's also, yeah. And I mean,
no, there is a beauty in the waiting. 100%. There is like a beauty in the waiting and growth, and I understand it, and I am ready for it. So yes,
you're
thank
ready
you for
for
the
it.
message.
You're ready for it. It's just a
I was born ready. We are Leos. We were born ready to shine.
born ready to shine. There's just a bit of growth and some factors that has to come into place. And when that comes into place, it's like, it's like fireworks. Because I saw this, as I was connecting with your energy, I saw this lovely green color, I saw celebration, I saw reward. And it's like you are standing in the distance, right? The Four of Wands kind of card, where there's like
Oh yeah.
celebration. Like, and you're like walking towards it. There's just a couple of hills that you have to walk across to get it. Everybody's like waiting for you to arrive. But there's just a bit of a journey to find your way there. I also do, as I'm continuing this tuning into you, I do think though that with the Ace of Cups and the Knight of Cups being reversed, that there's also maybe, I don't know, maybe this is with your partner or somebody else in your life that you are close to, but there's like an important, difficult conversation. There's like an emotionally charged conversation that is important that you have. And that you shouldn't wait with doing. That needs to happen sooner rather than later, basically. Yeah. That just came to me right now. There's an emotionally charged conversation. Could be with your partner, with a friend, or just somebody who you are. Could be a parent, of course. Just somebody who you are like emotionally connected to. And it's important that you have that conversation and that you are her. Basically, you are her sort of saying, no, or yes, of course. But like, and do that in a confident Leo kind of way, basically. Yeah, that's also here, actually. Yeah, that's also here.
I like that.
Yeah, that's also here. Absolutely. That feels
good.
very important. And for this one, like
That's
I said,
good to hear.
don't wait. It's like, get on with it.
Just do it.
Great. Any final questions?
Roger that. Yes, of course. You have to close up. You have to invite people to work with you. Where can we find you? What is your work? Where are you based? What is your next project?
Yeah, so I live in London and I do in-person sessions in London at my home in Clapham. I also do in-person sessions at a few different studios in London, and you can find all of this information on my Instagram at Tor Njamo, and my website is tornjamo.com. And what I'm working on right now is to establish a project around an intuitive school where I will be passing on my intuitive gifts. And the first course I'm going to be running is in June, which is about reading the tarot intuitively. And if you want to sign up for this course, you can find all of that information on my website because it became live today. So you can go on there, and it's going to be 2 hours every week for 3 weeks. And it's going to be a great place for people to come together who may not know very much about the tarot, but it's about learning how to connect with the tarot intuitively, like I just did for you, right? This important conversation. It's just feeling into that message and allowing that message to come through. And I'm really excited for that. And that's in June.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I love teaching. I think teaching is great.
Maybe we can wrap up with a last question just to empower people not be afraid of tarot, because there is a lot of misconception about spirituality, tarot, and
Hmm.
people may be afraid of it and they don't know how to approach. It's like woo-woo thing, witchy thing, like what the heck is this? Maybe you can just encourage them to be maybe more open-minded. Would be nice.
I think that, when you are choosing your practitioner to work with, is that you have to practice a lot of discernment, because there will be practitioners out there who lean into creating fear, because if you create fear, you will come back, most likely.
Mhm.
Right. So, I will put my hands up and say that there are people out there who do this, and I strongly disagree with it. But at the end of the day, if you meet a good practitioner, there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm not somebody who believe in curses or hexes. I know some people do, and that's good for them. I personally don't, because the one who is in charge is you, right?
Mhm.
And comes back to the conversation we were having earlier about our mind and observing our mind and befriending our mind and having a positive internal monologue, right? And having that confidence. Because the thing is, if you are confident in yourself, there's not that much that can harm you, when it comes to words,
Mm.
basically. I always say with the tarot, there's no such thing as good or bad. There's only ever opportunities and challenges. And if you see it as that, it's always an opportunity for growth and development and showing up in a different way.
It's very nice.
Yeah, sure.
I think we can finish with that.
I think we can finish there.
Well,
Well, thank you so much for listening. Yeah, I
yes.
love it.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna link everything in the description so people can find you and join. Thanks so much for a lovely chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a joy. I've loved it. Lots of interesting questions. Fascinating. Thanks so much, Laura.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks everybody who watched, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye
See
bye.
you there. Bye, everybody.